Second phase of vaccine pass starts today with stricter vaccination requirements. The city's COVID infection cases are up slightly with a surge in imported cases. Police arrested 3 more people in connection with suspected murder in Yunlong. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Starting today, residents are required to have taken 2 COVID jabs when they visit regulated premises covered by the vaccine pass scheme. However, some residents said they didn't know about the amended vaccine requirement. Chrissy Khan reports.
The second phase of the vaccine pass scheme came into effect today. In order to enter premises such as restaurants, cinemas, gyms, and shopping malls, adult residents are required to have received at least 2 doses of a COVID vaccine. Some eateries have arranged for staff members to assist customers in scanning their vaccination records. But some patrons have encountered problems. This man's family member had been infected with COVID and recovered, but the record hasn't been updated. This woman said she has already had 3 jabs, but her record only showed she had 1 dose, so she couldn't enter the restaurant. Children between the ages of 12 and 17 who have received 1 COVID jab 6 months ago are required to take a second jab before they can enter the specified premises covered by the vaccine pass scheme. COVID-recovered patients who haven't received 2 shots, however, can present the QR code of their recovery record, which is valid for 6 months from the date of recovery. The Food and Environmental Hygiene Department said it will team up with the police and take action against premises or residents who fail to comply with the anti-epidemic measures over the long weekend. Meanwhile, from Sunday, all medical exemption certificates must be issued electronically by doctors via the e-health system or the hospital authority's computer system. Certificates without an encrypted QR code will not be accepted. The third stage of the vaccine pass scheme will begin on the 31st of May. From then on, residents will be required to have received at least 3 COVID jabs in order to enter regulated premises. Christy Khan, TVB News.
The city reported 338 new local COVID infections today. Health authorities also detected 2 new highly transmissible Omicron mutant strains, recently flagged by the World Health Organization among earlier imported cases. Among the latest infections are 2 students from 2 primary schools who recently returned to in-person classes. One of them was infected after their family members came down with the virus. There are also 25 more imported cases. 3 of the returnees tested positive on days 9 or 12 after arrival. Authorities also discovered 2 stealth subvariants of Omicron that the World Health Organization recently flagged among earlier imported infections. The 2 mutant strains, BA.2.12 and BA.2.12.1, appear to be more transmissible and evasive than previous versions, but it's not clear yet if they would cause higher hospitalization and mortality rates. Health authorities believe there has not been a spread of the 2 strains in the community. Meanwhile, 10 more COVID patients died. Aged between 58 and 94, the youngest patient had breast cancer, which spread to the liver and bones. To protect the city's most vulnerable, Government Pandemic Advisor Professor Wallace Lau continued the appeal for vaccination. That's because Hong Kong's immunity barrier after more than 1 million citizens have been infected won't last forever, he says.
But it does not mean that, in fact, another big wave will not come again, just as what we have experienced in the past 6 months. So I don't think it matters that much whether we will have a 0 number or not. We have seen 0 number for a long time, and then we saw thousands of cases, being reported every day. So please do not be complacent.
According to Lau, less than half of the city's minors aged 12 or above received the booster shots. Only around 60% of seniors older than 80 have taken their first dose of a COVID vaccine. The latest round of the employment support scheme has been open for applications starting yesterday. The government has already received at least 87,000 applications. Nearly 50,000 applications were filed by employers. The remaining ones come from self-employed individuals. Under the scheme, each full-time worker will receive an $8,000 subsidy each month between May and July. Freelancers and part-timers could receive half the amount. Earlier, the government says employees aged 65 or above without a mandatory provident fund won't be eligible. But Doris Ho, head of the Policy, Innovation and Coordination Office, said employers could still try to apply for these workers. That's given they still made MPF contributions during the previous employment subsidy scheme, which could be used as reference this time. But these seniors will have to reactivate their MPF accounts and make voluntary contributions to the pension fund in May. The one-off subsidy will be disbursed to the first batch of successful applicants in early May. Some mainland workers who went to help out in the slaughterhouse in Sheung departed Hong Kong today. Secretary for Food and Health Sophia Chan, as well as Deputy Director of Central Government's Liaison Office He Jing, were at the Shenzhen Bayport to bid the workers farewell. During the fifth wave of the city's COVID outbreak, the mainland dispatched 38 mainland workers to work at the slaughterhouse in Sheung because of a shortage of local staff. The workers remained under closed-loop management during their time in Hong Kong to lower the risk of infection. 14 mainland workers remain in Hong Kong to offer their assistance to the slaughterhouse. The police have arrested 3 more people for their alleged involvement in a suspected murder case in Yuen Long yesterday. Officers said they have found multiple wounds on the victim's body. Keplong reports.
It was around 6 a.m. Friday when the 25-year-old suspect was spotted on Tin Ha Road in Yuen Long, dragging a human-like object on top of a cart. When the police arrived at the scene, they found a single-seat sofa on top of the cart, and on the sofa was the body of the 30-year-old victim wrapped in blankets. Her head was also wrapped in cling film. She was confirmed dead at the scene. After an initial post-mortem examination, the authorities believe the victim died 2 days ago as her body was bloated. Her limbs were tied up with adhesive tape. There were multiple bruise marks over her body and a 1 centimeter long wound on the back of her head. There were also traces of acid burns on the victim's legs. The police have arrested a 25-year-old man for alleged murder. He is believed to have been the victim's lover, and the two resided at a village house about 500 meters away from where the suspect was found. The police suspected she died in a house as traces of blood were found inside. 2 men and a woman who also live in the house were arrested on suspicion of preventing the lawful burial of a body. The police say the trio, as well as the suspect and the victim, are all tenants of the village house. The suspect and the victim were reportedly friends with their 3 housemates. It is believed that the 3 were inside the house when the alleged murder took place. An investigation into the case is still ongoing. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
The sale of electronic smoking products such as e-cigarettes are banned in Hong Kong starting today. Under the Smoking Public Health Amendment Ordinance 2021, the import, promotion, manufacture, sale and promotion and possession for commercial purposes of electronic smoking products, heated tobacco products, herbal cigarettes will be prohibited. People will be subject to a maximum of a $50,000 fine and a 6-month jail term if they violate the regulations. In addition, smokers cannot carry or smoke any electronic smoking products in no-smoking areas. Offenders will be penalized with a $1,500 fine. Still ahead on tonight's news. Russia releases video of captured British man who was helping Ukraine. G20 summit's invitation for Vladimir Putin is opposed by Washington. Former Wimbledon champion Boris Becker is jailed for bankruptcy fraud. Welcome back. Ukrainian forces continue to hold off Russian attempts to advance in the country's south and east. Russia's offensive to try to capture Ukraine's industrial Donbass region is going much slower than Moscow had hoped. Alan Buknia reports.
Artillery fire continues in Mariupol as the United Nations seeks to broker an evacuation of civilians from the city's increasingly hellish ruins. Mariupol's mayor, Vadim Boychenko, said citizens are begging to get saved, and it's not a matter of days, but hours. About 100,000 people are believed trapped in the city with little food, water, or medicine. An estimated 2,000 Ukrainian defenders and 1,000 civilians are holed up at the vast Azovstal steel plant. The Soviet-era plant has an underground network of bunkers able to withstand airstrikes, but the situation has grown more dire after the Russians dropped bunker busters and other bombs. Constant shelling also continues to bombard Kharkiv to the north of the Donbass. The city's mayor estimates more than 20% of the buildings are beyond repair. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said Russian occupiers in the Donbass are doing everything they can to destroy any life in the territory. He spoke of the need for talks that would lead to the evacuation of those left in Mariupol. But Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said there is no need for talks, blaming the Ukrainians.
There is only one problem. Humanitarian corridors, which are being announced on a daily basis, are ignored by the Ukrainian ultranationals.
Meanwhile, the Russian Defense Ministry released video of what they say is a British man who surrendered to them in the Mykolaiv region in southwestern Ukraine. He told them he'd gone there to help Ukraine in the war.
I don't know the regiment. I just know that the Foreign Legion said I could help when across the border. I was helping at the border for a bit.
The Russian Defense Ministry says the man was carrying a weapon when he surrendered. Alan Buknia, TVB News.
British experts are set to help Ukrainian authorities examine whether the Russian military had committed war crimes during its invasion of the country. And the Kremlin has hit back at more plans from U.S. President Joe Biden to seize Russian oligarch funds in America. Danny Rao reports.
The UK will send a team of experts to Ukraine to help local authorities investigate reports of war crimes allegedly committed by Russian troops during Moscow's invasion of the country. British Foreign Secretary Liz Truss said the team will hold talks with international agencies, non-governmental organisations, refugees and the Ukrainian government in May to assess what kind of assistance can be provided.
They'll be working closely with the Ukrainian authorities. This is about collecting a wide range of evidence, witness statements, forensic evidence, video evidence. We're also using British intelligence to help show the links between what is happening on the front line and the Russian authorities, because it's important that everybody in the chain of command is held to account.
Moscow has hit back at a proposal by US President Joe Biden to allow American officials to seize the assets of Russian oligarchs and subsequently use the funds to support Ukraine. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said any such move by Washington would amount to illegal expropriation. Meanwhile, the leaders of Romania and Bulgaria announced plans to cooperate with each other in a bid to ease Russian pressure on the European gas market. Moscow has cut off natural gas supplies to NATO members Bulgaria and Poland due to their support for Ukraine during Russia's invasion. Bulgarian Prime Minister Kirill Petkov said an interconnector between Greece and Bulgaria, which can deliver emergency gas supplies, could be ready by June. Speaking alongside Romanian Prime Minister Nicolae Ciucă in Bucharest, Petkov added gas could be alternatively sourced from Azerbaijan. The pair also agreed to reaffirm their support for Ukraine's independence, sovereignty and territorial integrity, and condemned the actions of the Russian military. Daniel Rao, TVB News.
Russia has been invited to a G20 summit in November held in Bali, Indonesia, and has agreed to attend. But the White House said U.S. President Joe Biden does not believe Russia should be allowed to attend.
The president has expressed publicly his opposition to President Putin attending the G20. Our understanding, and of course you could confirm this with the Indonesians, as we have reached out to them privately, is that they did invite them before the invasion.
The comments come after Indonesia's President Joko Widodo said Both Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and Putin had agreed to attend. Indonesia, which is the current chair of the G20 group, has called for Kyiv and Moscow to hold diplomatic talks to bring about an end to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Widodo said he invited Putin and Zelensky to the summit as the conflict in Ukraine is having a dramatic impact on the world's economy. China has sent 5 satellites into space from the East China Sea today. They were launched by a Long March 11 carrier rocket at 11:30 Beijing time and have entered the planned orbit. The satellites will provide commercial remote sensing data services for sectors including land resource survey, urban planning, and disaster monitoring. This is China's 3rd sea-based launch mission. Its success could pave the way for normalized and high-frequency launches at sea in the future. Meanwhile, the mainland reported 10,703 new COVID infections. That's around 5,000 fewer than a day earlier. Most of the infections came from Shanghai, which recorded 10,181 new locally transmitted cases yesterday. The city also reported an additional 47 deaths. But Shanghai said on Saturday it had detected no new daily COVID-19 cases outside quarantine areas, marking a milestone in its battle to contain the virus. Overseas again, Washington's top infectious disease expert says that although the U.S. has gone through the acute phase of the COVID-19 pandemic, it doesn't mean the pandemic is over. Dr. Anthony Fauci knows the virus continues to mutate.
We're seeing variants that emerge every few months. We've had Alpha, Beta, Delta, Omicron, BA2, BA4, BA5. So it's very difficult to really get a strong classical herd immunity when you have immunity that wanes and a virus that, in fact, does not stay stable. And you have an anti-vax movement which prevents many of the people from getting vaccinated. So that's what I mean when I described recently, we're not going to get classical herd immunity with SARS-CoV-2.
Meanwhile, White House Communications Director Kate Bedingfield tested positive for COVID-19. She says she's fully vaccinated and is experiencing only mild symptoms. She's not considered a close contact of President Joe Biden. Bedingfield is the latest in a line of public figures in Washington to test positive, which includes Vice President Kamala Harris, who tested positive earlier this week. Back in Hong Kong, today is the first day of the Labor Day long weekend. Some have flocked to the city's outlying islands for a weekend getaway. However, as the weather was cloudy with occasional showers, fewer people were spotted at Central Piers than previous holidays. Some who did decide to take on the journey admitted that their holiday mood was affected by the weather, although there are also some who said the weather was comfortable. Others decided to stay home because of the ongoing epidemic. That's the news for tonight. Thank you for watching.